Hey everybody, welcome to a Wednesday news segment for Answers with Joe. I'm Joe. This is your weekly news source where I talk about some of the cool stuff that I ran across throughout the week. I'm Joe Scott. I just said that, and I'm being overly dramatic. This is not working, is it? Okay, let's move on. Thank you guys for joining, and this is going to be an interesting conversation, I think. This is going to be some interesting stories that I ran across here, and I wanted to apologize, first of all. I normally come on a little bit earlier than this on Wednesdays. Had some stuff come up that I had to take care of, so I got pushed back a little bit. That means that it's possible that my wife will come home from work while I'm in the middle of this. I'm just saying there's a chance. That just means that my dogs are going to freak out and bark their heads off. I'm just giving you a fair warning. So hopefully we'll get through it, though. So, as the title suggests, there's been some news, a little bit of update on the whole M drive thing. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, this is a subject I covered toward the end of 2016. Gosh, it's been a while now, almost 18 months, a year and a half. The M drive is this very controversial propulsion device. Sorry, I got something in my mouth. That does not use fuel. And it shouldn't work. And that's what was interesting about it, and that's why I did a video about it. And my video was probably a bit too, excited about it. I'm not really a busted kind of guy. I'm not really a gotcha YouTuber. I don't like to try to... when I see something that I think is interesting, I want to promote it. I want to talk about it because I think it's interesting. So that's kind of the tack that I took with it, and I probably went a little bit over the top with some of the things that I said in there. It got a lot of attention, not all great, and I actually had to do a second video to follow up with it to kind of be like, okay, I was a little out of line, guys. But that's okay. But again, like, to me, like, when you have new technologies that could really be beneficial should they work, and especially if they kind of upend our current understanding of science or experiments that do so, that's exciting to me, and I want to talk about it, and I think it's worth pursuing because it's all knowledge, that's how you move things forward. So anyway, so the deal the last time was that a group of scientists, some experimenters, they were working on doing some experiments with this M drive, and they seem to have gotten a little bit of propulsion out of it. Now, it was tiny. It was like micronewtons or nanonewtons. It was nothing. But the idea was, if it did work in some small way, this maybe could be scaled up. I mean, we're talking about something about this size. They could scale it up to spaceship size, and it could possibly move us through the cosmos, through the solar system. And the cool thing about it, this is why people are excited about it, and this is why people really want it to work. It doesn't require fuel. And the whole fuel thing, it's like the rocket conundrum. It's the paradox, if you will. You've got to have more fuel to get further, but the fuel adds weight, which requires more fuel. It's this vicious cycle that people who build rockets, they're constantly fighting with this. So the idea that you could have a propulsion system that uses something like light or ions, there are ion drives, that don't require fuel, that maybe can just run off of electricity, that could be gathered by solar energy, that kind of thing, or through some kind of nuclear device. Those are extremely promising and extremely exciting. So that's why people are kind of locked in on this whole M drive thing. And that's why I covered it in my last video. Well, some German scientists have been working on it. Let me go ahead and go over to the article here. And by the way, oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, you got a preview. This is from Engadget. That's where this is coming from. So, some German scientists were working on this. They were basically replicating the experiment that NASA did the last time. And actually, the way it worked last time, I think I cut myself off earlier. A group of researchers were working on this M drive. They put it through this battery of tests. What was exciting was that NASA took a look at their experiment and said, okay, yeah, it passed peer review, basically. They said that your methodology is sound, you weren't doing crazy stuff, this actually is feasible. So this other group is like, okay, so let's take a look at what they did, let's redo it, because it needs to pass peer review, but it also needs to be reproducible. You need to be able to reproduce it. I don't know if I'm using the right words. Anyway, so they were going to try to reproduce this. So they did exactly the same thing as the last guys did. And as you can see from the headline right there, the results were not what we want. They basically concluded, and I'm going to boil all this down to just a few sound bites here. I invite you to go read the article, link down below, that they hooked it all up and they put it in a vacuum chamber and they ran it, and basically what it does is it fires microwaves into this conical structure, this cone, and somehow produces thrust without actually putting any propellant out. It kind of breaks the whole equal and opposite reaction thing. But anyway, so they did this whole experiment, and then, I'm paraphrasing quite a bit here, but then they turned it in a different direction, ran it again, and they were basically getting the same results no matter which direction they turned it. So they tried it in all these different ways, and it was kind of producing the same results every time. And again, to break it all down to the nuts and bolts, what it basically came down to was that they decided that it's not any propulsion that's actually coming out of the device. I think it's actually something to do with the Earth's magnetic field, that it's some kind of reaction between the electronic components on the drive and Earth's magnetic field. I think I read that they are going to try it again in sort of a lead enclosed box or something, or maybe they did do that, but it wasn't as electromagnetic proof as they wanted. But that gives you an idea of just how minuscule this thrust was. It was so small that it could literally be accounted for by saying it's the Earth's magnetic field. The same thing that makes a needle and a compass do that. It's that level of thrust that was coming out of this thing. So a lot of people, when I did my last video, were kind of having a problem with the fact that Roger Shawyer, the guy who kind of created this whole idea back in the day, he started saying all kinds of crazy things like you could fly with it and levitate. And they were, people were getting upset and saying it would require all the power on the planet Jupiter to get a person off the ground, so it's kind of useless. But again, the idea was if you could scale it up, maybe you could do something with it. Well, anyway, this last experiment, it's not looking good. It's not looking like M-Drive is going to be the answer that we were hoping for. But they do want to keep doing some research on it. They want to try a few more things. They did also play with something that was called I'm forgetting already. Not Mass Effect, that's the video game. Sorry, I'm looking to see if there's on here. Anyway, there was another type of propellantless drive that they were working on as well. So they're going to continue to experiment on this a little bit, just to make sure that their assumptions about the magnetic field are valid, and go from there. So that's upsetting. I do wish that it came out in a better way, but I think it's important. And this is what I said in my last video. We need to do the research, because if there are options out there that can kind of break through this rocket conundrum that I was talking about before to get us to where we can travel in long distances throughout our solar system and beyond, we need to be exploring those. And this is part of that process. It doesn't always work out. Most of the time it doesn't, but that's how you get there. All right, so the second story we're going to get to, oh, by the way, there is a really great video on basically what I'm talking about right here on the new research that Manley did. And I have a link to that down in the description below. He did a good job of covering it. Got a lot more into detail than I'm doing right now, because he had the charts and the graphs, and he kind of broke it all down. So if you're interested in it, definitely go check out his video. It's worth watching. All right, second thing on the docket today is NASA's creating the coldest place in the universe. I'm going to take a sip of coffee while you ponder that. I think this coffee is the coldest place in the universe right now. So, basically what they're doing, NASA launched on the 21st on the orbital ATK mission to the space station. This is a resupply mission. On that resupply mission was an experiment that they call the Cold Atom Lab, and this is really cool. So, there's a certain state that atoms and quantum bits get into called the Bose-Einstein condensate. And basically what happens, and I'm super paraphrasing this down, is that the atoms, as we all know, or the subatomic particles, they exist in particle states, they exist in wave states. depending on observation and all that kind of stuff. Well, one of the things that we're still kind of struggling with is understanding exactly what happens when a particle goes into a wave state or a probability state. And understanding that would help out quite a bit with things like quantum computers and other things like that. It's things that could really benefit as we go on. So the problem, though, is that you can create this Bose-Einstein condensate. You can get it super, super cold. We're talking about like a degree above absolute zero kind of thing. And the problem is that you can get it into this wave function, but then gravity will eventually take over and cause it to sort of fall out of that state. So they had to put it in a place where there was no gravity so that it could kind of just float there a little bit. Sort of a parallel, this is not the same thing, don't think this is the same thing, but when you talk about antimatter, antimatter and matter, when they touch each other, they explode. So how do you store antimatter? The only way that they can store antimatter is to actually like levitate it with electromagnetism in an enclosed area. So this is sort of this made me think of that, I guess is what I'm saying, like to be able to look at these wave functions more and in more depth and have a little more time with it. What they're doing is they're taking this cold atom lab, they're taking it up to the space station, they're creating the coldest spot in the entire universe on the ISS and creating this Bose-Einstein condensate, and they're going to study this wave function while it can be in that wave function for longer without gravity affecting it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of results they get from that. I'm sure somebody will need to explain it to me in human speak because this is super complicated stuff. But I find that really interesting that they're doing that. I think that's a super cool experiment, and the coldest spot in the entire universe is going to be on the ISS. It's kind of cool. So last story, and this isn't really a story so much. It's almost more of a thought experiment, just something I thought was really interesting, and I thought you guys would get a kick out of it. So we all want to know if there's alien life out there, and we all know that. Well, I guess I shouldn't say we all know, but there's this understanding that the Earth is a very rare place. There's this whole rare Earth hypothesis that maybe the reason why we're not seeing this whole Fermi paradox thing, the reason we're not seeing more aliens out there in the universe is because the conditions required for life are so specific and unique that only a place as crazy unique as Earth could do it. And Earth is a very unique place when you think about it. Not just the combination of elements here on Earth, the combination of the actual abundance of water, the distance from the planet, the moon I think plays a much bigger part in the continuity of or being able to stabilize our orbit and stabilize our spin than we take that for granted. But anyway, so a lot of the planets that we're finding out there, we're finding a ton of planets, as we all know. A lot of them out there are really close to their stars just because of how we're using the transit method and how we're like using the wobble effect and everything to find these planets. They have the most pull on their star when they're really close by. Problem with that is you get tidal locking, like we have with the moon. The same face faces the sun or faces their star the whole time. Well, what you get with that, as you can see in this here picture here, is you get what they call eyeball planets. In other words, right there on the part that's facing the star, it's super hot, it's baked, probably no water, it's a complete desert. And on the other side, it's completely ice, right? So you don't really get a flow of water, and you don't get a flow of maybe tectonics and stuff like that on a planet like that. And those are some of the things that we contribute, or we like to contribute to life here on Earth. So what this article is saying, though, and it's really more of an interesting thought experiment, is saying that there might be more likelihood of finding life on these eyeball planets than we think, because you can see right there, there's this moderate ring, there's this temperate ring around, let's just call it a vertical equator of the planet, because it's not spinning. So there's that temperate area that could hold liquid water, that could support life. And what the argument they're making here in this article is that since we're finding a lot more of these types of planets, TRAPPIST-1 is a great example. There were like 7 planets that they thought could be habitable, but because they're so small, or they're so close to their star, that they would probably be tidally locked. So that kind of kicked them out of contention. But this is making the argument that it might actually exist. So, or it might actually work to create life in those sort of, they call it the ring of life, that area around the planet right there. I just find that super interesting. So this is sort of just a breakdown of what tidally locking looks like. Seems like there's another picture down here worth showing. Yeah, so it explains in this article there's a couple of different types of tidally locked planets. There's icy ones and there's hot ones. And the hot ones are the ones that you just saw on there that have that baked surface on one side. It's just completely desert. And then there are the ice ones where it's probably, well, this is again hypothetical, but it's surrounded by water and it's mostly frozen over, kind of like Enceladus, right? Except because one side of the planet is facing the star all the time, that side of the planet, the ice would melt. So you would have like this big hole in the ice on one side. Hole, that's the hole in the ice at one side, on one side of the planet. So you could basically see water life happening there. The water would actually extend all the way around. It would just be like frozen over on one side. It was saying like amphibious life could probably exist there, and maybe like just exist kind of on the ice shelf on the way down. It did say something interesting that said that if it ever froze over for whatever reason, that hole, should it ever froze over, it would probably stay that way because of the what was the word that I used in Mars? I've already forgotten it. I forgot my SAT words. But basically, because ice reflects a lot more than water does, if that side were to ice over, it would probably stay that way because it would continue to bounce off of it. These are all just interesting things to think about. And I thought I would share that with you guys. And this is from Nautilus. I'm not all that familiar with Nautilus as a website, but they had an interesting thing. Thought I'd share it. One thing also that I just kind of, why not? It made my brain go there. Anybody who follows Game of Thrones, it kind of made me think of like, past the wall they have the land of always winter, and then as you go travel the other direction, you get to the more desert areas, and their seasons last forever. Winters last for decades, and I don't know. It kind of made me think about it. I mean, that's a logical. Is this the planet the Game of Thrones takes on, or is this where Westeros is? I don't know. It's an interesting thought. Although they do have nighttime there. This would never have nighttime. I mean, just take a second and imagine living on a planet like this. The sun would always be sunset. It would always be sunset, always. And it really makes you wonder, like, what kind of plants would grow there, because they would always be facing one direction. There would be no reason to face this other way. Would buildings all kind of have a wall to kind of block the sun and just not have to worry about it on the other side? What kind of weather patterns would there be? It's an interesting thought. I just wanted to pass that on to you guys and see what you thought about it. Anyway, those are the updates. Those are the news stories. And I'm going to jump out, interact with the chat here in a little bit, and see what you guys are up to. There's like 560 people watching. I'm glad you guys are here. In the meantime, while I'm letting this thing catch up, I'm going to pimp my shirts, yo! If you haven't had a chance, please do check out over at answerswithjoe.com/shirts. I'm wearing one right now. We got some really cool designs that are brand specific if you want to walk around with the brand stuff. There's also mugs, there's also posters and stickers and all kinds of stuff. And I would be glad to have you over there. Cool stuff. Okay. So, let's jump into the live chat here. So Jacob Weston asked, when is Lightning Round Part 2? Well, I'll tell you, man, it was supposed to be last Friday. It's supposed to be last Friday. I've actually already recorded it, and clack. Yeah, I have not gotten around to editing that yet. So just to kind of let you guys know, the channel is in a bit of a, not a transition in terms of content, not a transition in terms of content at all, but behind the scenes there's a lot going on. So much has changed this year. I'm becoming kind of overwhelmed, and it's time for me to start growing and bringing other people into the fold. I do have an editor that I'm working with, but the problem with bringing people on is it takes a little bit of onboarding, a little bit of an adjustment period to get all that set up, to get your systems in place and everything. And that's what I'm working on behind the scenes right now. So it's Um, that's why I was posting sort of like reposts on random Thursday videos, and I'm still not sure if I'm going to do that tomorrow or not. You guys tell me if you like the idea of it. I got a little bit of negative feedback when I did the reposted that eye contact thing last week. But that was the idea. I have these old videos that I always thought were pretty good and just were posted at a time when the channel wasn't very big, and I'd like to see them get a little bit more. I think it's something that maybe just got overlooked by a lot of people, and I'd like to have them get seen more. So I've been thinking about reposting them on Thursdays for the next couple of weeks until I can get things caught back up and kind of get the behind the scenes stuff worked out. Let me know what you guys think about that, because I don't know. I did get some negative feedback on that, and I didn't know what to think anymore. But anyway, yeah, the lightning round videos, I do have part 2 recorded. There's going to be at least one more beyond that, maybe 2. I'm going to try to bang those out. I was going to try to do them once a week. It might turn out being more like once a month now. It's a big ordeal anyway. All right, let's see. Love from the UK, says Russ Triv. Love back. I love the UK. I'd like to go back there soon. Lawrence Hakour asked, what do you think about BFR flying to Mars in about 3 months flight time? I think that's pretty ambitious. It all depends on what that second stage, BFR second stage, looks like. It's kind of hard to say right now because it's not up and flying. I'm sure there are people out there who know how to break down the engines and the science and everything and could tell you that a little bit better than I could. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. What else we got? Multi Deadeye says, new to the channel, love the content. Welcome, glad you're here. Ziz asked about Westworld hype. I'm not sure what you mean by hype, but I thought that they just started season 2 like a week ago or so, and somebody told me the other day they're already like 6 episodes in. I'm like, what? So I need to get caught up. I need to get caught up on my Westworld. I did really enjoy the first season, so I'm curious where they're going here. But don't spoil it for me. Don't spoil it. I gotta go check it out. Let's see. Hi from France. Hello back. Hello to Romania. Lube Master. The Lube Master. Come on, man. The Boring Company on Mars, he's asking. I guess... I'm not sure exactly what the question is there. I always thought that part of the reason why Elon was doing the Boring Company thing was to be able to go underground on Mars to set up some places to live there, because they're going to have to because of radiation and cosmic rays and that kind of thing. Caesar asked, would I ever be on Joe Rogan's podcast? Sure. I mean, I'd have to be a lot bigger than us, but can I do a video about the Calabi-Yau manifold? Somebody'd have to tell me what that is. Sorry. Really, dude? Dog sneezing. Hello from Argentina. Hello back. Dude. Enough. Do I believe in the Anunnaki? Asks Vali Tsunami. I've had people comment on that. I'm gonna have to say no because I don't really even know what it is. James Strickland, did I already give your update on the M drive? Yes, it's at the beginning. You'll catch it later. Kevin says, congrats on your channel being so big that I need help. Yeah, thanks. I guess every rose has its thorn, but no, it's been awesome. Oh, they're all saying bless you, Jake. You've been blessed. Okay, now they're staring. They're doing that thing where they stare at the door like there's somebody there and there's nobody there. They're creeping me out. Stop it. Stop being weird and yeah. So glad you tuned in to watch a live stream of me talking to my dogs. My fan of motorsports at all? Asked Jonty's Corner. I can't say I am. Sorry. Patrick Awand. What do I think of the U.S. investing heavy on supercomputers breaking the exaflop scale barrier 2022 maybe? I'd have to look into it. I don't know. I haven't heard much about that. Doesn't surprise me that we're investing in supercomputers. Green Hunter, have I ever thought about the possibility of our sun dying like in the movie Sunshine, 2007 movie. You know, I've never actually seen that movie. I mean, I know what it's about, but I've never actually seen it. I hope the sun doesn't die, because that would be bad. So apparently it's not going to just die. It's going to become a red giant and eat us alive. Much better. So let's go with that. Let's see. Hey from South Africa. Hey back. Do I like Chinese cultivation novels? I don't know what that means. Am I still stonded from the dentist? Are you stonded when you wrote that comment? No, I'm not still stoned from the dentist. Although that'd be nice. Do I have a cat? I do. Where'd he go? He's right here. He likes to be like right under my feet. Whole house, right under my feet. So I'm trying to work and wind up kicking him. Oh well. He-Man wants to show the dog. Well, maybe in a minute. We want dog. Can I do more videos about 3D printing like in your last video? Asks Chronozone DJ. I could. If you haven't checked it out, I did a podcast a while back, if you're interested in that type of thing, with a buddy of mine named Greg from Greg's Garage. He's got a YouTube channel called Greg's Garage. And we talked quite a bit about 3D printing because he did this event, boot camp, whatever you want to call it, at the CAD studio in Boston, I want to say. But AutoCAD, the company that makes like architecture software and 3D modeling and that whole thing, they're kind of like the pioneers in that. They've got this whole like studio and showcase where they show off the newest in 3D printing technology, and some of the stuff he was talking about I thought was mind-blowing, especially when you combine designing with AI and letting the AI kind of jump past the preliminary idea stage that we all have to go through, like weeding out the first 10 or 20 terrible ideas. That's what the AI will do, that for you and give you a starting point that's like further along down the line, and then you can just 3D print it. It's really awesome. So no, if you're interested in that subject, you could go to the website. It's answerswithjoe.com, and just kind of click on the podcast, scroll down, you'll find one where I talk with Greg's Garage. Jack Barry Woodward says EM is not real. Well, that may be the case. That's what we were saying. Okay, this one I have to answer. Amar Mayer asked, "Hey Joe Scott, why do you even like? Why though?" Because why-ish. Because like. There you go. Let's see. What do I think of hydrogen or methane fuel cell powered cars? I think hydrogen fuel cell has its place, and there are certainly some people that think it's more potential than electric cars. Electric cars have their have the momentum behind them right now. I mean, if people wanted to invest more in hydrogen fuel cell cars, I think that's a great idea. The thing about hydrogen is you can go to a pump and fill it up quickly and get on your way. But I still think that the more people use electric cars, especially for their daily lives, the more they'll find that, that serves like 95% of your use. Unless you're somebody that drives hundreds of miles every day, which obviously there are people, and it might not be the best option for that. But for the people that just have to go back and forth to work, and you can charge up your car in the garage, the idea of having to fill up really quickly, it's not that important. Anyway, Tagged Tome asked, why did I start this channel? Oh, good Lord. I started this actually to be a comedy channel. I had done a little bit of stand-up. I had a background in films. I had done a lot of screenwriting for various things, paid screenwriting work and whatnot. And I felt like YouTube sort of combined the film side and the story side with the stand-up side. It was like a little bit of both. It kind of scratched all those itches. And I just enjoyed it. So I started doing it, and eventually along the way, I did a video on a science topic, and that channel, or that video did well, and next thing you know, here we go. So I still try to play up the comedy aspect of it, because that's sort of what got me started doing it in the first place. Let's just take a couple more and let everybody get on their way. What else we got? So Valley Tsunami is asking if I believe in God. I think I've covered that in a video about as well as I possibly can. Joshua Godfrey, how strong is the evidence for a ninth planet? Well, there's the talk of I don't know, are they still calling it Planet X? But it's a planet that is not like in the same sort of orbit as the rest of our planets. It's in a 50,000 year orbit. I've talked about this a little bit in another video. And I haven't heard anything about it recently. I know they were able to calculate where about it should be based on some asteroids that it would have, I don't know if it's asteroids or comets, but anyway, let's just say comets, that were flying into, that were all kind of on the same trajectory going around the sun. And the basic idea was that this planet must have come around every 50,000 years and stirred up some of these comets. And they have an idea of where it should be. But I've not heard anything else about the hunt for this. It's an interesting topic. All right, what else we got? Jacob Weston, thoughts on microchip implants to replace wallets and keys? 3,000 Swedes are doing it. Ugh, yikes. Something about chips, microchips. Something about implanting microchips in people just sounds really dystopian, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know. Both of my dogs have microchips in them, and I don't think anything of it, but they're not me. So, I don't know. So I guess it's a thing that's going on in Sweden now. I guess somebody has to try it first and see how it goes. I'm guessing like you have a chip in your hand, you can just go up and pay like Apple Pay on your phone or something like that. I don't know. I don't know that I would do it. I don't know. It's just something weird about that. Nick Perry, hi from New Zealand. I just talked about New Zealand. What area would you like to branch your channel into that you haven't yet? Well, good question. I mean, again, I have that filmmaking background, and that's something that I've always wanted to return to. I would like to pepper in some narrative content. For a while there, I was doing some sketches at the beginning of my videos, little comedy skits and stuff. And you guys have always responded really well to that, and I really enjoy doing them. But again, when you're cranking out content just constantly, it's really hard to step back and say, all right, so there's a reason why I stay right here in my little studio. It's just boom, boom, boom. I can bang it out and move on to the next one. And really, it is sort of a quantity versus quality thing right now. Quantity is kind of winning, but right now I'm in a growth stage. And once I can grow my channel to the point where I can have again, a team of people that's kind of helping me to make this stuff and crank out this content, then I can be able to focus a little bit more on those things like those opening skits and more fun narrative stuff, all on similar topics to what we're doing here. And I hope to get there soon, hopefully in the next 6 months or so. That's where I would like to see my channel kind of grow into. And I also, well, I'm not going to say that yet. It hasn't happened yet. Never mind. One more. Give me a good one. One more. Nick says he enjoyed the comedy sketches and would love to see more. I hope to do more, and I appreciate that. Thank you. A video about the most beautiful wrecks of space? I do want to talk at some point about space debris. I think that's an interesting topic that I've never really covered before, and I think it's possibly going to be an issue moving forward. I had a bunch of people bring that up with the Rocket Lab video. By the way, if you haven't checked out the podcast that I did with Peter Beck from Rocket Lab, I got to pimp it out one more time. That was a huge deal for me, guys. I was so excited to actually get to talk to one of these people that's a newsmaker who's changing the world. We may not all agree with the way he's doing it, as I've seen in the comments, and that's fine. I think it's fascinating, and it's awesome that we've got different people doing different things, and they're all filling these different niches, and they're all, they've all got these grand ambitions, and it's amazing. It's such a cool time right now, and that's why I'm excited to be doing this, and I'm excited to be sharing this kind of stuff with you, and I hope you guys are excited too. But I was super thrilled to actually get to talk to one of these people, and it's all on that podcast. So again, I please go check that out if you haven't yet. And Walt is saying that it was excellent. Good. I'm glad you liked it. All right. Last one. Guillerme Bamer. Wow. Murdered your name. How about a video on the dancing plague of 1518? I know exactly what you're talking about. That would make a great Random Thursday video. I'm writing that down. Dancing plague. No, that's a great idea. I have read about that. That's a fascinating topic. Okay, well, guys, I've been doing this for a while, about 35 minutes. That's you don't need more of me than that. I wouldn't do that to you, and my dogs are going crazy. So I really appreciate you guys joining. These are some excellent questions. I've really enjoyed this, and I hope that these topics that I talked about today are at least interesting to you. And again, I invite you to go down into the description, click on some of those links, learn more about it, and yeah, go check out Scott Manley. I just like saying his name that way. Go check out his video on M-Drive. Again, it's much more detailed than what I just went through, and he always does a good job with that kind of stuff. Okay, so with that, I bid you adieu, and maybe not. I'll have a video up on Thursday. Definitely one on Monday. One on Monday I'm really excited about. It's a collaboration. I'm doing a collab with a guy that many of you know, and I think I've worked with him before, so it's not something new. Anyway, have a great rest of the day and a great weekend, and I will catch you soon. Love you guys. Take care.